You're listening to the Integrated Music Teaching Podcast from Top Music. Tune in weekly as we interview music teachers and experts from around the world to explore creative activities and ideas that build learning connections in students. Our integrated music teaching approach will deepen your students' understanding of musical concepts, engage them in critical thinking, improve their reading and performance, foster their curiosity, and prepare them for a lifetime of music making. It's Tim Topham here, and welcome back to the Integrated Music Teaching Podcast. It's great to be spending some more time with you. I hope you have had a good holiday if you've been over here in Australia. We're just getting back from holidays, and over in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you are enjoying your holiday if you're tuning into this. Perhaps you're going to be listening to it when you're back in the studio. Either way, great to be spending some time with you today, and thank you very much. It's a very exciting episode, I have to say. I have been planning to write a book for a very long time, and it's finally happening. In fact, it's finally happened. We're just in the final stages of the production process of my brand new book called No Book Beginners. And today I thought I'd give you a sneak peek, or a sneak listen, I guess, because you're not watching this, you're listening, right? And read you one chapter from the book to give you a bit of an idea of what it's all about. And then also to give you the opportunity to head on a waitlist to be first to be notified when we do finally launch the book. And it will be launched online as a download, but also as a printed softcover book. And I'll also be sharing a lot about it over the coming weeks and also at conferences and things like that. So it's a really exciting time for me because this has been, as I say, a long process. As anyone who's written a book will know, it does take a lot of time to put them together. But I think I've learned a lot in the process, and I wonder if anyone else who has written a book has found the same thing. It's kind of cathartic in some ways, and it really does force you to think and plan and get all your thoughts in order and to explain yourself and to really dive back into the history sometimes of where things have come from, which is what I do in this book. Talking about No Book Beginners, why I created it, who was the first guinea pig student who enjoyed it, and what's happened since and how it all works, and also to give away some of the free lesson plans. It has taken a long time to put together, and I guess it's the culmination of, well, my now 13 years of working in this area of helping independent studio music teachers. Before we get into our sneak listen to the new book, I wanted to let you know about one of our free podcast freebies. This is my 20 creative ways to start a piano lesson. It's been one of our favorite downloads. And in fact, in the last 6 months or so, I've been releasing videos on TikTok. If you're on TikTok and you haven't found my channel, do look for topmusic.co. And I have released probably 15 of these creative ways to start a lesson as a 1 minute or less video on TikTok to share the ideas. Basically, it's a checklist of just fun ways to break up the very start of any music lesson with a student with something completely different. And of course, you can use these ideas and build on them week over week, or you can just make it a complete one-off and then not come back to it for a while. It's completely up to you how you use these, and a lot of them are really flexible as well. Most of them don't need any other resources. They're just ideas that you can go with. And I really encourage you to try them out, even just try a couple out with one student or two and see how they go. You can grab the free download at topmusic.co/creative. All right, let's dive into my book. It's called No Book Beginners, a step-by-step framework for creative piano teaching right from lesson 1. And I'm going to be starting at the introduction. Here we go. Have you ever read something or heard a speech that upended all your preconceived ideas about a topic? This happened to me in 2015 when I was attending my first national conference on Keyboard Pedagogy conference in Chicago. One of the presentations there had ramifications for my teaching that persist through to this day. The profound impact it had on my pedagogical thinking is core to everything I share in this book. At that NCKP conference, one of the keynote speakers, Dr. Edwin Gordon, was unable to speak due to illness. While I'd not heard of Dr. Gordon, other attendees certainly knew who he was. The head of the conference and one of America's most respected teachers, Dr. Samuel Holland, had this to say about Dr. Gordon's absence. He is a true legend in the field of music education, and the full impact of his work is only beginning to be felt in the piano teaching community. We are very saddened that Dr. Gordon's health prevents him from being with us at this time, but are heartened that he has asked us to have his keynote address read at the conference. While nothing can replace his presence at our event, we're pleased that we will have him with us in thoughts and words. Dr. Holland then proceeded to read out Dr. Gordon's keynote speech, and I was memorised. One of Dr. Gordon's earlier quotes had me nodding vigorously because it affirmed everything I knew about the music teaching landscape and had been trying to change for 5 years. He said, "I'm led to believe that piano is taught to many persons by teachers who typically teach the way they were taught rather than according to an objective learning theory and current research." The speech went on to outline the research behind Dr. Gordon's music learning theory, MLT, and the discovery he'd made that the best way to introduce children to music is not through the traditional avenue of method books. Rather, it's the same way you'd teach a language. Exposure to this thought and Dr. Gordon's MLT method triggered something in me. As a pianist, I was really good at improvising and jamming with other musicians. I could play lots of instruments and I did lots of accompanying. But when I started teaching, I fell back to what I knew, teaching the way my own teacher had taught me. The problem was, the old paradigm of focusing music education on reading, performance, and interpretation was clearly not working for the majority of students today. In later years, whenever I would take on a transfer student or run a mock exam for another teacher, I was constantly baffled by the fact that many students could play well, but struggled to maintain a steady beat. Or they'd be happily playing in 3/4 time and add or remove a beat from the bar without noticing. And if I asked them to just play something in C major, they had no idea what to do. And if I asked them to make up a melody over my accompaniment, they stared back in bewilderment. Their aural skills were often poor, if I could get them to even sing, and general knowledge of music severely lacking. And I knew these things weren't just limited to the students I was interacting with. I saw the same observations mentioned time and time again by fellow teachers in online discussions. The conference also made me realise that there were things I was confident to do myself, but wasn't teaching to my students. The traditional reading approach seemed to be contributing to this. So when I returned from NCKP, I went deep. I mean, really deep. I interviewed professors and authors who'd had the most success in teaching beginners and found out their best tricks. I went to masterclasses and lectures about music learning. I interviewed specialists in Kadai, Orff, Suzuki, and MLT, and I read and learned as much as I could about music learning theory. While the MLT method certainly resonated most deeply with me, I continued to run into one challenge. I couldn't find an MLT beginner method I was comfortable using. So I began to try out lots of different ideas from my research and my own experience on my beginner students. I got them chanting, singing, clapping, tapping, using percussion, getting off the bench and playing games. You name it, I tried it. It made sense for more time to be spent on listening and singing, moving and clapping than reading. It also aligned with my own understanding of how I play and experience music. Then the breakthrough happened. Late in 2015, I began working with a new beginner student, Josh, who was a fun, outgoing 7-year-old, madly into Australian rules football, skiing and music. With all my research in hand and a preliminary test done, I committed myself to teaching Josh for 1 term, that's a 10-week teaching block in Australia, completely without method books. And the short story is, it was a success. Such a success, in fact, that it set me on the path for creating my own approach. No Book Beginners is born. One of the biggest challenges I've faced over the years is implementing the teaching ideas I was reading about. I found that unless you had a one-on-one teaching from a master, it was really hard to understand what to do. So when I began developing my 10-week program of no-book creative piano lessons, my main goal was that it could be easily implemented by regular teachers accustomed to method books. When it came to share my approach to the world, I was apprehensive. Would it work for teachers who weren't me? The apprehension evaporated quickly as success stories started to pour in. Many were from teachers who were classically trained, nervous about trying something different, and were only doing so because nothing else was working. Valerie had a shy student who wouldn't do anything in her first lesson until she opened up with some ideas from the No Book Beginners approach. Here's what she told me. Hi everyone, I wanted to take a moment to let you know about an amazing community of music teachers ready to welcome you over at Top Music Pro. Top Music Pro is the global hub for music teachers looking to connect, learn, grow, and be challenged in both their teaching and studio businesses. Community members save time by accessing hundreds of step-by-step lesson plans, creative teaching frameworks, business guides, online courses, and workshops. We offer training in topics as diverse as music technique, lead sheets, website building, intermediate repertoire, group teaching, and special needs teaching. We also save you money through our extensive discounts, including those with Music Notes, Sheet Music Plus, Music Room, Office Depot, Tonebase, and many more. And if you like sheet music, all our members get a free book of studio licensed, beautifully engraved sheet music each and every month. As a valued podcast listener, you can check out the Top Music Pro community free for 14 days by heading to topmusicpro.com, clicking Join Now on our studio tier, and using the special coupon code IMTPOD23. That's all one word. So that's IMTPOD23. We can't wait to welcome you inside. I had a student who came in with her mum and big sister. She was shy and refused to look at me, talk to me, or play anything until I showed her some improv ideas about the 4th of July and fireworks, which we were getting ready to celebrate the next day. All of a sudden, she started asking if she could show me a song she knew before playing Hot Cross Buns. I springboarded from there and played Mary Had a Little Lamb. The next song she wanted to show me was a very rough version of Fur Release, just the first few notes. But I figured out quickly what she was playing and played just the beginning right-hand theme with 2 hands. Her eyes went very wide and her first smile appeared. After that, we started the black key improv. And she said she already knew the names of the white keys and could start from the highest key and name each one going backwards. I praised her for how much she already knew and encouraged her with some ideas for C, D, and E improv. She was counting groups of 2 and 3 black keys and finding every C before the lesson ended. Sarah, a music teacher at a school, had one of her piano students run up to her in the yard and share his excitement with her. My Thursday 8-year-old had a great time, she said. He came rushing up to me at recess at school to tell me about his Egyptian music. I took a video in the lesson and was so proud of him. He chatted all the way through. So this is the snake, and he's even a dangerous snake. He made up the words here and there, which he chanted in rhythm. He told me, this is the really scary part. He reused motives in logical ways. Wow. The most surprising thing was when he told me that he didn't do much practice from the tutor book because he was too busy making up his song. I replied, that's fantastic progress. There's plenty of time for that later. And Timothy had a story for those with students who struggle to find the motivation to practice. He said, I loved your notebook beginners approach, which I've been using to teach a 2nd grade boy. We are going to be doing our 4th lesson this week. What's great is that he's really enjoying it, and apparently he practices a lot without needing anyone to tell him to. Another challenge of many of the programs I've tested over the years was that they were exclusive and wouldn't let you do your own thing. It was, their way or the highway. I wasn't happy with that. I wanted to be able to do my own thing, and I wanted to keep things simple and clear. That's why, when developing Notebook Beginners, I knew I wanted it to be a framework rather than a method. I designed it to be something on which to scaffold your teaching and provide ideas and direction, something to work alongside your current teaching style, or even just something to try as a replacement for a single student. As you read through this book, I want to emphasize that how you use this approach is totally up to you. I encourage you to explore, change, remix, and edit it as much as you wish. I'm not precious about how my ideas are used, and you'll need to adapt them to suit each student in any case. Many teachers are pretty confident playing lead sheets and improvising simple melodies, perhaps for church, for example. But what most teachers are lacking is a systematic framework for teaching those things to students. It can be really hard to break down how to teach things that you're already good at. Later in this book, I will share the first 5 Notebook Beginner lessons, and you'll see they provide guidelines for 1. The basics of technique, sitting position, and knowledge of the keyboard. 2. Immersing students in creative music-making activities that will hopefully continue for a lifetime. 3. Challenging students to explore music and be curious about how it works. 4. The fundamentals of meter, rhythm, beat, and time, and how it feels in their bodies. 5. Helping students transpose tunes and hear and understand harmony. 6. Helping students listen, sing, and pitch match from the beginning. And 7. Helping students be 100% engaged and having fun with the music before they start the next phase, which is reading. Is Notebook Beginners for you? The framework is designed for teaching beginner piano students aged around 6 to 10 years old, having 30 to 45-minute weekly lessons. While it is aimed primarily at teachers working one-on-one with students in a private studio setting, it can easily be adapted to work in classroom and group settings. This book is for independent music teachers who have a feeling that there might be a better way of teaching but are not sure what that looks like. It's for teachers who've sometimes questioned in their own minds whether all the music reading from the start is the right way. It's for teachers who perhaps haven't experienced a lot of training and would like more confidence in their approach. It's for classically trained teachers who find it hard to break out of the shadow of the way they were taught and to try new creative ideas in lessons. It's for teachers who are finding students harder to connect with, harder to inspire, and harder to motivate amongst all the distractions of childhood today: sport, technology, dance, drama, you name it. It's for teachers wondering why the approach they've used for years with students is no longer working as well as it used to, and why students are dropping off from lessons. It's also for teachers who are already teaching creatively but haven't had a structure or framework around it, and who sometimes feel they might be teaching students the wrong way. This book is designed to inspire you to not only try more creativity in your lessons, but to come up with your own creative notebook ideas. I believe that you can do amazing things if you only have a few ideas to spark your imagination and the confidence to give it a shot. About this book. This book was written formally in 2023 based on an amalgam of my writings as far back as 2010. It represents knowledge I've assimilated from interviewing over 300 podcast guests, writing more than 150 articles for magazines and blog posts, testing countless teaching ideas, methods, and approaches, attending and participating in hundreds of masterclasses, workshops, and events, attaining my own performance diploma through lessons with my teacher, concert pianist Carolina Almonte, attending and speaking at international conventions, and helping teachers across the world for 13 years, both individually and in groups. It's been immensely rewarding to put this book together. I enjoy going back over blog posts and articles I'd written right back to 2010 when timtopham.com, as it was then known, was established. I've reread the transcripts of podcast interviews, rewatched videos right back to my first, yes, very embarrassing YouTube effort, and yes, it's still on my channel if you want to watch it, and did even more research on how things have changed in the almost, 10 years since my experience at the NCKP. I particularly enjoyed diving into the writing of the late Forrest Kinney, one of our top music expert teachers and another pioneer in creative piano teaching, rewatching our webinars together, interviews, and the course he created for us, and particularly reading his extended essays about why music has moved so far away from creativity over the last 200 years. You'll see some of his writing and my thoughts referenced throughout the book. Over the journey of this book, I'm going to be sharing how he got to this place where method books are the basis for most beginner piano lessons, the problems this has created and why change is needed to address those problems, what those changes actually look like, what creative music teaching is and how you can gain confidence teaching creatively, the underlying principles of the No-Book Beginners framework, the full lesson plans for the first 5 no-book beginner lessons that you can use right away in your studio, the benefits of using the no-book beginners approach, and how to manage atypical beginners like preschoolers, teenagers, adults, and students with special needs. This book is a condensation of all the most important information you need to understand the thinking behind the no-book beginners approach and to give it a go in your own studio. Let's get on to Chapter 1. Well, I hope you enjoyed the introduction to my new book. I can't wait to share the entire thing with you. It's going to be so much fun to get this in the hands of teachers all around the world. Now, if you'd like to be one of the first to be notified when we do go live and you can get your copy, head over to topmusic.co/book-waitlist. That's topmusic.co/book-waitlist. And if you enter your details in there, we'll keep a tag on your email so that we can let you know when that is available and how to get involved. And we will be getting together a bit of an ambassadorial team. If you're interested in helping us promote this book as well, then do let us know. Just send us a message over at support@topmusic.co with Book Ambassador Team in the subject, and we will get back in touch with you. Over on the Guitar Podcast this week, Michael is up to episode 59, and it's with Sebastian Gomez, and it's all about building an online teaching studio and living as a digital nomad. And that's over at topmusic.co/guitar059, or just search for the Top Music Guitar Podcast on whatever podcast player you're listening to this show on. I can't wait to catch up with you again next week. I'm going to be heading over to the NCKP conference. I'm looking forward to seeing lots of you over there. And for the show next week, I'm going to be sharing the audio from the workshop that I'll be running at the actual conference. It's all about engaging and connecting with the TikTok generation through more integrated creativity. I can't wait to share that with you next week. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I'll speak to you again soon. How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today. If you enjoy this show and want to hear more of our work, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening today. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, visit us at topmusic.co/podcast or check out the show notes. I'm Tim Topham, and this is the Integrated Music Teaching Podcast, a production of Top Music. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your week ahead, and I'll catch you next time.